us through this.
When you dial 911, the very first question is still, where are you? But in next generation 911, it's quickly becoming, what else do we need to know right now? Imagine responders showing up, not just knowing the address, but with the building layout, AED locations, and even security camera access. That's GIS in NG911. Fueled not just by governments, but by schools, hospitals, and businesses sharing their data. That and more is coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm an ENP, and 3 times each week I bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes a bit controversial takes on emergency communications. Today we're diving into how GIS fuels NG911 and why your local hospital, university, or even shopping mall just may be the unsung hero in helping responders save lives. Next generation 911 and GIS, more than just a map. Hey look, legacy E911 was just a static map. One of those things that never got folded the way you initially got it. Next generation 911, on the other hand, is a live, living ecosystem where GIS is the nervous system. It doesn't just locate a caller. It validates, routes, and contextualizes the entire emergency. And here's the twist. This system isn't only fed by government address databases. Schools, hospitals, and businesses are now becoming the critical contributors because they have the ability to push their data into next generation 911 that can provide responders with that head start. Governments don't have this data today. Here's a scenario that you might remember from last year. Do you remember the Hyatt Long Beach fire drill? The local Peace app had floor plans loaded before the alarm ever went off. Firefighters didn't have to waste precious time figuring out stairwells. They already knew the building layout. That is GIS plus contributory data in action. Addressing in a new connected world. Sure, the foundation of emergency services is still addresses. Elm Street, Main Street, Hillside Road, whatever. But NG911 addressing goes a lot further. It links the basic civic address to things like campus floor plans from a university, hazmat storage maps from a factory, emergency exits and AEDs from a shopping center, or room numbers and wing names in a hospital or school. At a university swatting incident, law enforcement was able to pull up the campus GIS layer. That instantly provided them with the dorm layouts, exits, and camera feeds. Instead of charging in blind into multiple buildings, they were able to pinpoint the reported location in minutes, and that avoided chaos and panic across campus. Validation meets contribution. In next generation 911, validation isn't just about, does this address actually exist? Yeah, that's important, but it's evolved into, does this address come with the right extras? Things we need to respond. Think about it, a validated school address is important, but a school address with up-to-date entrances, helicopter LZ coordinates, and even interior routing for responders, that's gold. In one real-world case, EMS was delayed at a school entrance because the main entrance was under renovation. GIS data that included temporary reroutes could have shaved off minutes. And in a 911 response, minutes matter. Practical applications, community data in action. Here are a few scenarios where contributory GIS data can really flip the script. For schools, imagine an active shooter response with instant floor plans, classroom rosters, with up-to-date information, as well as camera feeds. In hospitals, potential for routing patients to proper exits, or guiding responders into specialized wards. For factory environments, the ability to identify chemical storage zones and hazmat information before firefighters walk into danger. And for stadiums and malls, crowd evacuation plans and AED hotspots all at responders' fingertips. Picture a cardiac arrest in a mall. Instead of internal and external responders running blind, GIS can tell them the AED is on the second floor near the food court. That information could be a saved life thanks to data contributed by the mall's management. Challenges: sharing without chaos. Look, of course, more data comes with more headaches. Not every business updates their floor plans every year. A hospital expansion might not hit the GIS database until months later. And then there's the big privacy question. Just how much access should PSAPs and responders have by default? For example, a high school could add a new wing but doesn't update the submitted GIS data. Fire crews arrive on scene and the extra hallway isn't on the map. Cue confusion. Next generation 911 standards can fix this, but only if schools and agencies keep that partnership alive. And that's why collaboration and education are critical. The future, a true community safety net. The future of NG911 GIS is really community-driven. In a perfect world, real-time contributions will flow from IoT sensors, building management systems, and the private data lakes from commercial entities directly into the PSAP infrastructure. In my view of the near future, and I believe this is coming, imagine a factory fire. As soon as 911 is called, IoT sensors report the chemical storage, where temperatures are rising, and GIS pulls up the hazmat layer that can be pushed straight to firefighters' tablets. No longer do they walk into a death trap. They arrive ready. Look, in reality, that's the future that we're building. But it's only going to work where the private sector contributes alongside government data sets. So the big takeaways for today: next generation 911 GIS isn't just government maps. It's enriched data from schools, hospitals, and businesses in the public sector. Validation now means accurate and useful, not just exists on a map. And be aware that community-contributed data accelerates response and leads to better outcomes. And as a side note, don't forget how Z-Access fits into all of this. Because when the building data says room 302 third floor, responders need to know where floor 3 actually is. That wraps up today's episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. I hope the updates are insightful and provided you with some context that you didn't think about before. Remember to follow me on most social media platforms at Fletch911, and remember to visit 911tips.com for a complete archive of our previous episodes. Stay safe and thanks for listening, and if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on 911tips.com. That's 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.